we go.
Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Listeners, welcome back to this week's episode of I Never Knew, But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, your host, and most of you know me as Life Coach Maureen, now Master Life Coach Maureen. Very proud of that. I'm so happy that everyone is here today, and I have an extra special treat for you. I love every guest and everyone that comes on. I just go, how can it get better than this? How can it get better than this? And it can't. So today's guest is so special. He has a light that shines, and just from talking to him off air, his whole aura brightens a room, and his story is so impactful. And I think it's great that we're going to help you listeners if you're in those situations in life where you just feel like, wow, I just don't know where to go from here, and it seems like everything is downhill. These are the inspirational stories that I love to bring you. So today's guest is Darius Wallace,
Perfect.
and he corrected me on that, which was great. So Darius was born in Flint, Michigan, and he had always dreamed of becoming an entertainer. However, he struggled with a paralyzing fear of speaking in front of people. So it led him to express his emotions in self-destructive ways. And thankfully, intervention came in the form of his high school theater teacher. Oh, thank you, theater teachers, because I aspired to be an actress in high school. And she introduced him, or is she or he?
He.
He, okay, I had a feeling. Introduced him to techniques for overcoming his fears and excelling as a performer. He went on to study acting at Interlochen Arts Academy, SUNY Purchase in New York, and became a founding member of Tennessee Shakespeare. Over time, he developed his own one-person show on the life of Frederick Douglass, which allowed him to pursue a career in theater, film, and television. By accident, which is how I love the trajectory of life, we just kind of fall sometimes into our purpose. He found himself becoming a speaking coach for professionals who rely on effective communication for their livelihood. And for the past 8 years, he's been a speaking coach in Memphis and has ventured into inspirational speaking. So we're going to get into all of it. Welcome,
Oh,
Darius.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great Wednesday today and prepared to have a great, restful holiday season.
I love it. I love it. The beauty is Darius is in his car taking time out to do this podcast as he's heading to have his holiday with his family, which full body chills because I love how special that is. So Darius, we always start off on Inc. or I Never Knew podcast with our knee story. And that
Uh-huh.
knee story is, that moment in your life, and many moments where you just all of a sudden said, this isn't working. Whatever I'm doing isn't working. It's not fulfilling. I don't feel like I'm in my purpose, and something's got to give. So let's start off with your knee story and when things sort of changed for you to become who you are today.
Well, it's funny because I feel like I've really lived, that's happened to me several times.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's happened to me several times. And it's funny when I am on podcasts these days and it said we're going to get into his story. In my mind, I'm thinking, which one?
Right.
Because there's so many, there's
Yes.
so many stories of reinvention. And I would say the one that was the most transformative was my earliest experience. During that period of time, if you saw me right now, I'm 5'11". I'm probably 195 pounds. I have this baritone voice, and if I grew my facial hair out, I'd have a full beard. Well, when I was 13, I was 5'11". I don't think I weighed 195 pounds, but I looked like a senior in high school at
Wow.
13 years old. And I did have sideburns down to here. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was a sizable young, early teenager. And at that time, to help with my self-esteem, I practiced martial arts. So Bruce Lee was my hero, and still is. And I practiced. I wanted to be like Bruce Lee so I could express myself physically really well, but not verbally. And that caused a lot of anxiety and fear and stress. And I wasn't able to argue my points and deal with conflict resolution. And so most of my experience in expressing myself was through anger. And unfortunately, there's a local street gang that took note to that. And they search out like other organizations for talent. And so they saw that I had some. So I entered into this very terrifying world at 13 years old. What they did during that time was new, really. Came from out of Detroit. It was a gang called Young Boys Incorporated that kind of started this whole thing of recruiting young people because when you recruit a young person, if they get caught, they go to juvenile and they come right back out.
Yeah.
So that's what was happening during that time. And it was a time where my reality and the facts of my reality and the statistics of my reality was dominating my life. But I did have a dream and I did have a vision to be something other than my reality.
Yeah.
And I
Oh.
lived in that dream very often in my bedroom or in the basement or walking to school. I was constantly living in this other dream, but that it seemed like I couldn't reach because every time I stood in front of people, I would forget all my lines. Matter of fact, I was flunking my acting class.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
Looking back today, I love that
yeah.
you
I
said
was.
that. And I don't mean to interrupt you. There's something that you
Oh no, no problem.
mentioned in your questionnaire, which is the divine spark within us all. And I truly believe we know we come when we're young kids, we're still fresh, and we know that there's hope and there's beauty and there's future for us. Then we get into those situations like you did, and we're just clouded and we don't see any way out of it. So I love
Yeah.
that you're sharing that part of it. Is there anything you think in your childhood or in your situation at that point that really led you to have that lower self-esteem? What was your surroundings? What were they like that contributed to this?
Well, at that time, I I felt very timid. Growing up, I was very timid, and so a lot of times when you're timid, you're bullied a lot.
Yeah.
And so my early life, I was bullied, quite a bit, you know. And I think that um, that contributed to I was bullied, I was rejected a lot. I wasn't the kid in the beginning that if you were playing street ball and people were choosing sides, I was either normally picked last or wasn't picked.
Wow, that's shocking with this
Yeah.
tall 13-year-old who's, somewhat assertive, aggressive, and got the sideburns. You would think physically they'd be like, oh, yeah, we
Well,
want him.
well, actually, by that time I was. By that time I was because martial arts was the thing that I relied on that gave me
Mm.
some self esteem, but it was mainly physical. But the time that I'm talking about was when I was even younger than that, like when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And it really wasn't until I was about 11 or 12 that I at least physically gained some confidence. But here's the issue. The reason why I think that I've had 9 lives is because of the issue that happened when I was a child, what was happening on the inside of me. Even when I started acting, when I was on stage, I was massively confident when I got over my issues with my high school theater teacher helped me. But then when I got off stage, I was massively insecure, massive low self-esteem, massive low self-image, massive low self-worth.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I say that because we think that, confidence, self confidence is an inside job.
Yes, it is. You can't outperform your self-image. That's for sure, right?
Yeah, you really can. You really can. It truly is an inside job. And I didn't know that at the time. And the reason why I bring up my imagination when I was going through what I was going through at that time is because I do think that that's one of the great secrets to manifestation is your imagination. What are you imagining on a regular basis? So even though my reality was a lot of conflict and stress and anxiety because of what I was going through at that time, in my imagination, there was this opulent dream that I had of seeing myself on stage and seeing myself on screen and seeing myself loved and liked, just constantly. You know what I mean? In class, I wasn't doing my work. Don't do that. I was imagining myself. I was imagining myself being and doing and having these things. And so, um, it's beautiful when there's intervention. It's beautiful when there's intervention. And so if you have any influence on people's lives, your audience out there, your intervention is of great value. Is of great value. And so, there was Mr. Bronson, the vice principal of the middle school. We didn't call it middle school then. We called it junior high school. Let you know how old I am. Um, he There was an issue where one of the gang members was called a name. He had a weapon. He was chasing the boy down. He saw the vice principal. Gang member saw me. He gave me the weapon, told me to hide it. I did. The vice principal found out about it, called me into his office. Where's the weapon? I wouldn't tell him. And he kept asking me. And then he finally said, you know what? He says, I know that you have a dream of being in drama. He said, you have a choice to make. You can either do the thing you love to do, which I know is drama, or you can continue this lifestyle and end up in jail, juvenile, or I'll just tell your father. Well, let me be clear. Let me be very clear. Send me to juvenile into jail. Just don't tell my father.
Anything but that. So that was the
Yes.
the ultimate threat right there, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
If any of your audience members, have you ever watched Good Times?
yes. Oh,
Well, my father was the real James Evans, okay? So
oh.
listen, don't do it. Don't do so. I went home and I had a serious, meditative, mindful moment, even though I know what mindful was back during that time. And fortunately, I chose what I love to do. And so the reason why you probably thought of female because my teacher in eighth grade was Mrs. O'Neill. And Mrs. O'Neill did um, work with me on one line that I had in a play called Midsummer Night's Dream. I had one line that I just couldn't say, but she kept working with me on it and I kept doing it. Well, on the night of the show, the time came up for me to say my one line, and suddenly my voice just burst throughout the whole theater. And in the audience was my high school theater teacher, or my soon to be high school theater teacher, Martin Jennings. And he came up to me and he said, some people sometimes see more in you than what you see in yourself. He said to me, you're very talented. No one had ever said that to me before. People used to say how good I was at martial art, but no one had ever said to me, you're very talented. And I want you to be a part of the theater class are you going to Central next year? Well, I lived on the other side of town. I had to be bused. I wasn't sure. I told my mother about it. She worked it out. I ended up going to Central, ended up getting into the theater. And what he noticed in me, and this kind of is what really moves me because of what I can notice in students when I'm coaching them. But he noticed that I was very kinesthetic and that if I could get a breakthrough physically without having to say anything, then I'm going to have more confidence saying things. So he taught me pantomime.
Oh,
which I was really good at because I was a physical
brilliant.
guy. Yeah. And I started to get laughs. And that was when it was like a breakthrough, an aha moment. The light went off. And I realized I love this. And so that
Yes.
began the journey and so I ended up getting the lead role in a show. It was in ninth grade, and it had never happened before, to my knowledge. I think I was the first ninth grader to get the lead in a play there at Flint Central. But in the audience were the gang. Gang was called the Top Dogs. And I was walking home from school, and this car slowly pulled up, windows pulled down. Big Phil, my first name is Phil, but I go by Darius. That's my middle name. It's my stage name now. Get in the car. And so I did. And as he was driving, he was looking in the rear view and he was like, we saw you in that play and we see how talented you are. We don't want you to go this route. And they stopped the car, opened the door, let me out.
What?
And that
Oh,
that was and that was the end of that.
that is such a beautiful story because you think, they wouldn't want what was good for you and they don't see that side. They just want you to go out and do their work for them. And oh my
Right.
gosh, I have so
Yeah.
much to unpack here. First of all, what you were doing essentially was a vision board before there were vision boards in your
Right.
head saying,
Yes.
I see myself on stage, I see myself doing this. And that's a hard thing to do when you're in the muck, as I say, in the
Yes.
weeds. It's hard to see when you're not in the weeds. The other thing I have to say is I think acting is the ultimate imposter syndrome because you
Uh-huh.
can be anybody but yourself at all
Yeah.
times. And
It's
so
true.
if I get rejected as an actor, it's not
Right.
me. It's not me
Yes.
personally.
So
So
true.
it really just popped in my head when you said that. I love that you said sometimes people see more in you than you see in yourself. And I think that is the beauty of being a person in the world that tells people you're amazing, you're doing great, you have potential. I don't think we hear that enough growing up. I really
True.
think that's, as coaches, you and I both know, I teach confidence, self esteem, and how to be your own
Mhm.
best friend. I'm undoing all those years of nobody telling you that you're amazing, that you're wonderful, that you can do it. So
Yes.
I love that line more than life because you have to find those people. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you attract, I think, those
Yes.
people who believe in you.
Yeah.
So having those teachers, and if you're in teaching, please be passionate about it. I know there's teachers that are just burned out, they don't make a lot of money, but man, if you're in teaching or nursing or any service, please be passionate about it. If not, then please step aside for those who can change young minds. And I truly believe the little ones, the young ones, is where we need to start. So we have a new energy shift where now the world believes in themselves and nothing can stop us. So
Yes.
to find that divine spark. So, oh my gosh. So then you graduate from high school and
Yes.
then you go to study acting, and now by now you're confident, you overcame your fear of speaking. So tell us about those years. And also, as a struggling actor, I mean, let's be real, Steve Harvey was homeless, living in his car as a
Yeah.
struggling comedian. So tell
Yeah.
us about that really pertinent moment in your life where you were sort of you were still moving toward, I want this dream, but you were really at the bottom and probably had lost hope.
Yeah, well, there's a number of things that happen, and let me interject. If there are teachers out there, anybody of influence, yes, you definitely want to use intervention, and one of the great ways you can do it is through the power of storytelling. All the teachers that had influence over my life, they use story to help me. So I just wanted to put that out there that that's really important.
Great.
Um, so really, uh, what happened first, if you can remember that I had this vision in my imagination during this period of time of seeing myself being on stage and the like. And so Interlochen Arts Academy is a school of the arts in Michigan. That's a boarding school. So you live there like college. and people from all over the world come there to study. So it's a phenomenal experience. And in those years, 15 to 17, I was living the dream that I saw when I was, going through when I was in Flint, Michigan. I was up there at the school, performing arts school. So it's very beautiful. I was acting, getting lead roles, just on cloud nine. And then I went on to study acting in New York. Now, the issue there is this, is that at that, sometimes we get into a level where we were maybe stars on one level, but everybody on this new level, they were stars on their level too. So
Yeah.
now you're in a place where you're not the one
Yeah, going from
anymore.
top dog in junior high to the freshman in high school. Yeah,
Yes,
kind of a
that's
reality
right.
check, right?
That's right. That's right. So now you're surrounded by all these people who were the lead people and the stars in their environment. And so guess what? Self-confidence is an inside job. And that had not been done in me.
Mm, okay.
And I was absolutely lost. And listen, when you're lost like that, here's the tragedy. Everybody else sees how talented and gifted you are, except yourself.
Yep, yeah.
And so you're walking around in quiet desperation. I'm walking around in quiet desperation, slowly breaking down because suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm back where I was. Not when I was 13 in the gang. I'm back where I was when I was 7, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, rejected, left out. I'm not chosen. I'm not worthy. I'm not supposed to be here. I have been an imposter. I've made people believe that I can do this when I really can't. These were the lies I was telling myself over and over and over again, slowly breaking down. And so, what do you become? So, what are you drawn to, or what catches up with you when you're sorry about that? Someone's trying to call. When you're going through that, it may not be a gang, it may not be drugs, but what if it were a cult?
Wow. Yeah. You're so vulnerable at that point. And what's that saying? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And when you're vulnerable without that really solidified belief in yourself, any information that comes in, you might grasp onto, right?
Yeah. And so we don't really prepare the people we love to watch out for what that could be.
Yeah, true.
And so I've never really shared this publicly before like this, but I think it's time.
Thank you. What better place to do it than this safe space where we all love and support one another and there's no judgment here. So thank you for that
Yeah,
vulnerability.
yeah. I think one of the things you're welcome. I think one of the things that causes us to fall in, because I kind of study that a little bit now because I'm always curious. What is it? What was it? What happens? Now, I'm not a professional in that world, so I still don't know all the dynamics. But one thing I know is that I needed a sense of belonging.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
fell into that world of belonging. But here's the problem, whether it's a cult or a relationship or a job or a community, when you are dependent upon someone else's acceptance of you, you have completely disempowered your existence because now they have control over your existence. They have control over your imagination. They have control over your vision. They have control over your goals, which means they have control over your destiny.
Yes, and those are the two things that I always say humans look for: acceptance and validation. And that sense of belonging starts right from that young age, especially when you're going into school. You're starting to look for people outside of your parents and family that you think have to love you to finding that belonging. Good job. You nailed it with all my psychology background. That's exactly what it is that makes us so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's so true. And so what happens then is you have someone that could look you in the eye with a straight face and say, you are not the dream that you desire to be. As a matter of fact, the dream that you desire to be is not of God. Imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine that coming from, by the way, I am a spiritual person, so I don't want to put down any religion or religious people. I actually love all different types of religions. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something wrong when you have a religious institution that's telling you who you are not, when 10 years before you had the leader of a street gang, a very dangerous one, tell you who you are.
That's a mic drop moment right there. That is a mic drop moment. You are so absolutely correct. I think, and I'm with you, spiritual, I think everybody needs something to believe in. And I think
Yeah,
first we believe in ourselves, and then there's if you have that positive thing to believe in. But I agree with you when it comes to religion. Now, I grew up in a household with my father being an atheist, my mother being a Catholic. They did not insert anything in us children to believe in anything. They allowed us to make a choice. And I think that is such a valuable thing to do for children. But here's my thought: any religion that inserts shame in you is not good for you. That's just
right.
that shame insertion makes you feel controlled and makes you feel guilt and makes you feel bad about yourself, is not a loving religion, spiritual surrounding. So that's a
It's very
really
true.
great insight.
Very true. Very true. It was the worst experience of my life. But fortunately, I won't get into all the dynamics of what this religious cult was like. It wasn't quite like the more dangerous ones, but still it was soul killing, soul killing. But I remember one of the members who was always very nice to me. I was sitting with him. We were just kind of chilling. I don't even know why I was over there. And his TV was right there, and he had a seat, a chair here, and he was watching at his feet up, and I was sitting there, and there was a table in between us, and we were just watching TV, and he looked over at me, and he said, back the people were still calling me by my first name, Phil, during time, and he said, Phil, get out of here, don't stay here.
What?
He said, just leave, just go. You're better than this. Just go.
Look how many
And
people intervened with you who
yeah, oh
literally,
yeah,
I mean, you're at these forks in the road, and then you've got your drama teachers who were like, hey, let's push you this way. And then the gang who was like,
yeah,
hey, man, no, you need to go this way. And now you're in this cult surrounding who's like, get out of it. How blessed
yeah,
are you? I mean,
yeah,
you are definitely that divine spark people saw in you. Like, even if you didn't see it in you, they saw it
yep.
in you. What
They
a
saw it.
that's a blessed thing, because not all of us have had that. A lot of us have really been, oppressed and kept down when we wanted to take the other road. So how
Yeah,
cool is that?
yeah, yeah. And so I did it. I left. And I'm so glad that I did. I had a couple of years of wandering in Flint, Michigan. I wasn't quite sure, how I was going to rebuild my life, but eventually I did. I ended up reconnecting to who I am as an actor, and I found my way in solo performing. My first show actually was on Malcolm X, and then it transitioned to Martin Luther King, and then I toured all over the U.S. and actually I was living on cloud nine, but what was interjected into me, or what I interjected into myself from all of that brokenness, I probably had a breakdown. Was then I had, because I still hadn't done, confidence is an inside job. I still hadn't dealt with the inside of who I was, and so I ended up, realizing and recognizing that when I drank, life seemed to open up. I wasn't a wallflower at the club anymore.
Courage in a bottle, they say,
Yes,
right?
that's right. That's right. And so I started to incorporate, that drug of choice, as it were, into my life. And I'm smiling now because when I look back, it was fun at the time,
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time, and so I carried that with me into my this new period of acting and this new period of building a career. And so I had this false sense of confidence now. I had this false sense of esteem. And the issue with any kind of addiction or substance is over time, it flips on you. It changes when it ain't fun no more.
Right.
And
Right.
yet you still need it.
Yeah. And you're relying on it for your happiness. And anytime that's the case, something outside of yourself you're relying on, it runs out. It does. It
That's
just, you're right.
that's right. And so, you use it, things are going great. Cool. I need a drink. Or things are not going great. I need a drink. Or things are just mundane. I'm bored. I need a drink. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Sure.
So during this period of time, at a very young age, my mother ended up with breast cancer.
Mm.
And during that time, you just can't imagine that your mom is going to go. It just doesn't happen to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things get better and things work out, and that's where, in my mind, that's where it was going to go. And uh, I remember when I was leaving, I was heading back. I was heading to Los Angeles actually to start over, start again as an actor. I was going to do movies, and I remember my mother coming to the door as I was leaving out, excited to go. But I looked back, and she was waving goodbye in a way that I had never experienced before. I didn't think anything of it, but it wasn't natural. It wasn't normal. There was something about it that didn't, I couldn't have imagined that it meant that it was going to be the last time I saw her.
Yeah. It just
So
felt
while I
different.
was in, huh?
It just felt different for you. You just
Oh,
sort of,
very much so, very
okay.
much so. And so I went to Los Angeles, and things were picking up and going well, making connections. I got my show was getting produced out there. I was introduced to had an appointment set up with the head of casting at NBC, CBS, one of the two, Peter Golden, and I was excited about that. Well, to make a long story short, um, I do talk about this in a TED talk, by the way, if anyone wants to look it up. Um, but what ends up happening is the day of that I'm to go speak with Peter Golden, my mother, my father calls me and tells me that my mother has passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, it breaks my
Yeah,
heart. I mean, timing, timing.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What
And
did
it's
you
like the
take from
whole,
that? I mean, how did you proceed to go speak and
I
meet with him?
I did. I
Oh,
did because I had mastered the ability to show up with what I have, even though I'm broken up inside.
wow.
And the whole world turned upside down. Never rains in LA, but it was raining that day. And, I got there, I did it. Um, he was like, "You're going to work in this town." He called a bunch of casting directors. He said, "I'm so amazed that you were able to come, even though your mother has passed away. I'm so sorry. But when you get back in town from the funeral, I want you to call these." So came home to the funeral. It was surreal, just unbelievable. And I wasn't the same when I came back to Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I was not the same person. Whatever I was before I got there, that who I was physically, Bruce Lee, you know what I mean? That dissolved. But what came to life was what was really in me: the rejected, the broken, the low self-esteem. All of these things were now living on my flesh. Does that make sense? That's this
absolutely.
physically who I was exuding.
The dark came to light.
It did, very much so. So none of what I had hoped worked out worked out. I wasn't confident when I went into any of those rooms. and I couldn't function. I was depressed. I couldn't, so much to the point where I lost my job. I lost my car. And fortunately, I was invited in the midst of all of this to become a part of a theater company in Brooklyn. And so that was a little bit of a spark. And so I went to Brooklyn and I was acting, but not from the place where I normally had acted in the past. I was acting from the place where I was really living, which was broken, lack of self-confidence, lack of self-esteem. And it seemed to go well, but I couldn't tell. And I started to move deeper into trying other drugs. What ended up happening is I found myself in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, homeless,
Wow.
broken. And if you ever are out and about, I actually experienced, it was so surreal. I did a gig in New York last summer, and I went to Fort Greene, or downtown Brooklyn, Fort Greene downtown, in that area. And when I saw the landmarks, I realized that I actually lived through this stuff. And when I saw the guy pushing the cart, picking up cans, I realized that that was me 30 years ago, or however long, about 30 years ago.
Oh, I want to point out, listeners, the contrast. He went from meeting with Peter Golden, the head of a network, to being homeless. It's
Yes,
this roller coaster ride of life and these experiences that I do believe we ask for because we're, for whatever reason, we're needing these lessons, these resilient lessons, and to help others. That contrast just absolutely blows my mind. And the thing about acting or successful people in general is one thing that bothers me, and tell me how you feel about this, is when people say, must be nice, or or you're so lucky. Oh, it just literally like this doesn't happen overnight. And I love this, Darius, hearing I was sitting across from the president of a network to I was homeless. And
yeah,
every part of the journey had to do with how I felt and saw myself. Because
yes.
there's no outperforming your self image. There's no outperforming self esteem, self confidence. If that is not solid, you're not going to be able to create that life and get the opportunities and attract the people that are going to bring you the desires of your heart.
It's so true. It's so true. You know, and there's these parallels that's had these reoccurring themes. So I'm out here and I'm homeless. I'm thinking I can make 600 a week picking up cans. Of course, when you push the cart for 10 miles or so to get to the place where you get the money and you just get $20,
Yeah.
you realize you were delusional. So I I found myself, if anybody out there is in Brooklyn, or if you know where Fort Greene Park is, I was sitting there on the bench, and really, in my mind, in my imagination, I was looking. I must have been standing after I sat, but I behind the bench, you can see Spike Lee's 40 Acres and a Mule. I could also see this little coffee shop called the Cocoa Bar, where I loved to get something to drink when before I became homeless, and I wanted to work there to rebuild myself. And so I'm sitting there, quite frankly, just to show that even when you're homeless, you can use your mind to get what you want, with a 40 ounce of Old English 800
Woof.
and barbecue Fritos. And so I'm sitting there and I'm imagining, my father told me something when I was a child: all things lost. He was Muslim. I'm quoting from the Quran. All things lost can be regained. And we, like the creator, can say be, and it is.
Ooh, I
And when I
like that.
remembered that, something lifted up in me. Self confidence is an inside job.
Yeah.
Something lifted up in me. And it didn't matter anymore what my circumstances were. I saw myself, just like when I was a kid and I saw myself doing certain things. I saw myself working with Spike Lee. I saw myself in movies and television. I saw myself working at the Cocoa Bar, being a barista. I saw myself living in a nice place in Brooklyn. I began to see myself performing again, see myself acting again. And it wasn't long after that, because I went down to the Cocoa Bar and I asked for a job
Yep.
and I
Action.
got it.
Action.
Yeah,
Vision,
I got the job.
action,
And
result.
the
Yes.
lady that hired me, she lived in a really nice brownstone and she rented a room out to me. And I also had access to this living room. I haven't worked with Spike Lee yet, but his manager hooked me up with an agent, which got me this big audition, which I didn't get, but it was the beginning of a journey that ended up eventually. I left New York. I came to Memphis. I really didn't think I was ever going to really act again. But to make a long story short, I ended up I found myself waking up out of my sleep reciting monologues, literally. And I auditioned for this theater in Memphis, and then I was back on my journey as an actor. Wrote a one person show on Frederick Douglass. That was the beginning of that journey. I didn't work with Spike Lee, but I did work with a Hollywood film called Nothing But the Truth with Matt Damon and Kate Beckinsale. I eventually started to work on Nashville. I directed and produced my own movie, 100 Lives. I started to really pick up my life, but I had yet to realize self-confidence is an inside job. I had by now a wife. I had 3 children. I was making a living as an actor, but I was still relying on the bottle. And when you're relying on that as your self-confidence, the bottom line is when you're dealing with addiction, it only gets worse. It only gets worse as far as the way you think and the way you perceive and the way you see things. And so when I was on the road this time, so that I could afford, my drinking budget, I took the budget that I needed to stay in places, and I used that. So I made a habit of sleeping in my car. There are all these videos now of people having to live in their car and live in storage units. I never did that, but I could relate when they talk about how they survive living in a car. It's like, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what you do. Because I
Oh,
did that
and I
while
love.
I'm living my dream as an actor, because I haven't yet dealt with success being an inside job. Well,
Yeah.
there always comes a point where something miraculous happens, whether it's addiction or not, and it's called hitting bottom.
Yes. Yes. As
And
I sorry to interject. I was married to an alcoholic, an abusive alcoholic. And so I, of course, went to Al Anon often, and he went to
yes,
AA. And there was something that was said in AA when you are starting to get sober and get help. And it's that alcoholism is like an elevator, and it depends where you want to get off. And
right.
the rock bottom is the basement and death, really. So where are
Yeah,
you going to get off? And you're right, those miraculous moments where we will repeat these experiences. If we haven't learned the lesson, your self-confidence, it was only surface. It hadn't really seeped in to your skin, to your soul, and to your heart, that you were worthy, and you covered it with that escape of addiction, right?
that's right. That's right. That's right. And so I remember when I hit bottom, when I got up on the couch. By the way, if you're married and you're drinking a lot, you probably ain't sleeping in the bed.
True. That might be a sign. If you're not in
Yes,
your bedroom with your wife or
yeah,
husband, you might have a problem. Like, here's your
yes,
sign, that here's your sign kind of thing. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. So when I woke up on the couch, No, really, my bottom wasn't as bad as other bottoms that I've heard, you know. So, but it was a bottom. It was a moment when I realized this part of myself I can't live with anymore. And so I took that first step. And for those of you that take the first step and fall back, I did. I did many times actually, but this time I did, and I fell back for a day, but I went back the next day, and that was 14 years ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And but you know, so I did that. But here's the thing: dealing with what alcohol represented was bottling up and trying to drink away all of my trauma that I experienced in life as well as when I was young. So, what that moment was the beginning of that inside job work that I needed to do.
Yeah.
Just one day at a time. Just doing that inside job work just for today, just doing that inside job work. And those days add up after a while, but it's always just for today. Just for today, I'm going to do the inside job work. The drink, putting that down is just the beginning, but now I got to figure out how am I going to cope with life? How am I going to love myself? How am I going to forgive myself? How am I going to be more giving to other people? How am I going to serve other people? And you go through this process that sticks with you. And when it finally the inside job transformation happened was about 2 years into sobriety. When the real miracle happens when you don't have when you lose the desire to drink, but also too when you're faced with a challenge where you have to find a way to cope with life in a different way. And so everybody remembers 2008 if you were alive. I don't know how your your audience is. Well, you know, 2008 didn't affect me as an actor during that time. I was still rolling. However, 2 years into my sobriety, 2011, it caught up with me because the phone wasn't ringing anymore. And I
Mm.
had no plan for anything else because the phone always rang. The
Yeah, yeah.
emails always came in, right?
You got comfortable.
Yes, I got comfortable, you know, and so here I am, you know, with zilch. But I have three children. Two has to go to daycare. This is summer, really hot summer, by the way, in Memphis. Two had to go to daycare. One had to go to preschool daycare. And then my wife, I had to drive way downtown. Well, guess what? After all of that, I had no gas money.
Oh no.
So I had to, so, well, I knew I wasn't going to have any. So I had these books, and believe me, books are very precious to me. They're very, very precious to me. But there's this place, if anybody out there's from Memphis, you probably know it, Burke's Bookstore. I took some books, some very, very precious books to sell at Burke's Bookstore so that I could get some cash to put in my car so that I get back home and then be able to pick everybody else up.
Wow. But
So,
that's resourcefulness, and that shows resilience where we
yeah,
come up with these ways. You're gonna make it, you're gonna figure it out. And when you reach
yep,
those moments where you think you can't go on, you got to look back and say, but I did. I made it through that. I made it through that. I made it through
yes,
that. We're always looking forward and saying, oh, this is terrible. How do I get there? But we forget to look back and pat ourselves on the back and say, darn it, I'm proud of you, and you have it in you. And that's
yes,
that inside job. And oh my God, I could talk to you. I might even have to do a two-parter with you, and we're gonna have to meet up again. So we have a few minutes left.
yeah,
um I want you to tell everyone what you're doing now, because you're absolutely amazing to me. And the overcoming, I have to say, when you said, "Well, my rock bottom wasn't as bad as somebody else's," yet you were homeless. You were homeless. You didn't have a penny to your name, and that's the humbleness that I love. Where
yeah,
you know what, whatever our rock bottom looks like to us. I remember getting out of my marriage where I put up with the domestic violence for so long, and I didn't get out of it. But then when he cheated on me, I was like, okay, now I gotta go. And they're like, wait, that was your life? Well, yeah. So it looks different. Everybody's thing looks
yeah,
different. So You're so amazing. And now I did not know even the TED. You're so humble. You didn't even put that you did a TED talk, which is hashtag goals. I'm gonna get there. I had it scheduled during COVID and it got canceled. So you're my hero on that. So tell us how you are coaching and how you are helping people, professional speakers like myself and
Yeah,
acting. Tell us everything that's going on with you, what we can help you with, and share,
sure,
bring people to you.
sure. So, let me just say, I want to make the. Can I make the connecting link to that with the?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just real quick. So, and because it gets into my ability to be able to do what I'm doing now, just so
Yeah.
you know, real quick. So, so I get home, get my family home, and even in being a little broke, I guess as it were, and making that sell with my books, I had a little cash, so I had to have my coffee. So I'm sitting at Starbucks,
I feel you. I feel you.
but this still small voice spoke to me. Let's go for a walk. And not far, there's this park. I'm walking in this park. It's about a mile around. Not on purpose, but I realize I've walked around it 7 times having this discussion with my higher power. And let me tell you, I can't remember what was said or what I said. I honestly can't. All I know is when I came out, there was a serenity, a peace that passes all understanding. I knew from the inside out everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I got home and I started to see the miraculous happen. It says somewhere in scripture in the Bible, it says he will do abundantly above all that we ask or think. My wife had some residual check can't come through from what she was doing. There was some mysterious $325 we found in our account. The next day, my agent called me. I had an acting job. And this rhythm of going inside to find the serenity, going inside to find the peace in prayer meditation, which is what I still do, doing that inside job work, but this time on a higher level, where the inside now is married to the imagination, which is going to always equal manifestation beyond what we ask or think, led me into a space and place where over the past decade or more, I've had a growing and thriving career as an actor, speaker, and coach. And so now, ironically enough, I did fall into speaking coaching by accident. I was invited by a broker who saw me in a Starbucks, a real estate broker to coach his brokers. I didn't know what I was doing, but he said, "Oh, and I'll pay you." I said, "Well, when can I start?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Done.
Yes. And so I did, and it worked, but I was using a lot of acting techniques. Through the course of time, I started to merge and marry acting techniques with speaking techniques. And then I was invited by his son, who started a foundation, to become the TEDx coach of Memphis. So I started teaching all these influencers and entrepreneurs, and the word started to spread. And then I did a couple of TED Talks. I've been TEDx coach there for the past 7 or 8 years. And so basically, at this point in my life, I do a lot of utilizing the skills of storytelling from my world, and I now utilize it in the world of the public speaking communication to help people that have to present in any way, shape, or form, or want to better their communication in any way, shape, or form. I help them do it through the power of communication and primarily the power of storytelling, which, if you notice, this is what I've been doing throughout. Can't help it,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
Um,
no, it's more impactful that way. I want to know your story. I don't want to be preached at. So I love that. And I think you're absolutely effective and correct. That's how we reach people, because we reach into their emotions and their heart and the relatability of I've been there, or I am there, or I could be there. So I love that tie in, that's what you're meant to do. To you're really meant to just shine your light in the world through what you have been through. And that's what this is it's all about this overcoming and this belief, guys. You said it best, Arias. the inside job part of this is, I always say your house could be on fire and you can run around the block, but you got to come home. And
Right.
doing
Yeah.
that inside work is about facing it, put a name to it, feel it, and then you can say, you can go now. You can leave now. Right?
It's very true. It's very true. And you know, your listeners should know that I have to do it every day. And it doesn't mean that I don't run into other challenges, but now I face those challenges so much more different than I did in the past. And what I noticed with a lot of my students, that no matter how successful they are, matter of fact, there's one guy that came on board who, you know, has assets into the billions. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's
but
amazing.
there's still this inside job work
Yeah.
because of the stories, excuse me, that we tell ourselves. We
Yep.
tell ourselves these stories that makes us think certain things are happening that are not, and that we are a certain way that we really are not, but we've made ourselves to believe it. And so, you know, there's a real quick story of a young man back in the 30s and 40s who was a great investor, but he knew he had to speak in order to grow himself and grow his business. So he decided to go to a Dale Carnegie course. And, you know, Dale Carnegie, they make you share a lot. And when it's time for him to share, he quit. He went back to his home, sat down on the couch in front of the fire with a glass of scotch. No, he didn't really do that, but I always like to put that in there and sitting there, realizing that what did happen is he realized to grow himself and grow his business, he was going to have to learn how to do it. So he went back and he noticed that his techniques were anchored in something that helped him get through it. And he got a certificate. Well, when you go into the home of Warren Buffett, you won't see his business degrees, but you will see that one certificate. And Warren Buffett said of public speaking, and Warren Buffett said to a group of graduating students from Columbia University, if you public speak, it will increase your value 50 to 60%. And it'll be an asset that'll last you 50 to 60 years. Or if you don't do it, it'll be a liability that'll last you a lifetime. Public speaking not only grows your self worth, but it also grows your net worth.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. And yeah, it's valuable because no one will know what you're doing unless you tell them what you're doing.
That's right.
No one will believe in you unless you believe in you. And
That's
that's,
right.
especially being a over 50 woman, I
Oh, you look
I
great.
thank you.
Yeah,
I definitely have, that's not something that my mind was comfortable with, marketing and speaking and all that. And I have evolved into that and grown into that, and the comfort level I have because of the inner work, because of the inside job, because of the finally finding my worth. Your cars, your bank account, your house, and your success means nothing. That's zero worth without that self-worth being at its highest level, because I can't share with you the things that I do in a way that you believe in them if I'm not positive myself about it being of value. So,
so
oh
true.
my gosh, I so much. Where can we find you? Your website, your coaching,
Yeah,
anything you want to
yeah,
share?
yeah. You can get in touch with me by going to www.dariuswallace.com. That's my website.
Okay.
And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you just put in my name, Darius Actor for at Darius Actor for Instagram. I think I'm still Phil Darius Wallace on Facebook, um, and on LinkedIn. Um, and eventually there'll be a YouTube channel that I'm going to start 2024. But those are the main ways you can get in touch with me. Also, my email is dariusactor@gmail.com. Dariusactor@gmail.com.
Perfect. I'm going to put all of those in the notes on your show when we publish it. So talk about things that are so heavy but yet fun and enlightening on this show. I like to
Yeah.
start with something a little bit fun. And actually,
Yeah.
this is so apropos because of it being Thanksgiving tomorrow. I have a
Uh-huh.
little segment that's called That Tastes Funny. Uh, I would like to know, Darius, what is something that either you eat that most people will not eat, or something that most people like that you don't like? And I'm going to add a little bonus question in there. Do you mix all of your food on your Thanksgiving plate? So let's start with the food that you love that some people would be like, "Ooh, that's kind of weird." I've had some weird ones from my guests that I'm like, "Oh, I have to try that." So what you got for me?
Well, the only thing that I can think of that might be weird, it tastes good to me, is carrots and peanut butter,
Oh,
or
yeah.
celery and peanut butter.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. I'm
Yeah.
totally down with the peanut butter on anything. So
Yeah.
carrots
Yeah.
and peanut butter. I don't think I've done
Yep.
the carrots and PB. Okay, fantastic. What is
Yeah.
something that most people like that you are like, I just can't do it, Maureen. I can't eat it.
Pork. Uh-uh. No way.
No, no piggies,
No.
huh?
No piggies. Absolutely not.
I love
No pork.
I love it. I love it. That's the first one I've ever gotten on that.
Yeah.
Do you mix your food on your Thanksgiving plate?
So when you say mix, you mean just like mix it all together or just separate on the plate?
Even like, so I this you're gonna laugh, on TikTok shop, I think it might have been Amazon. There's a plate and it has like all these different compartments where
Uh-huh.
you can put them all. So I'm a little bit OCD and some high functioning autism. So I have funny little quirks. And
Oh.
one of those things is I don't like my food touching. So this plate is
Oh,
like,
yes.
it's life. I should,
Yes.
I should get it. I didn't get it. That kind of thing. Even just my food touching, like, ew, my cranberry
Yes.
sauce with my stuffing. No, man. So how about you?
Yes.
They can touch?
They can touch. Now, ironically, I have two high functioning autistic children. They're 19 and 20 now. And my son is like that.
I love him.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah. He
That's
can't.
my little spirit animal right there. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, I actually have been known to, depending on the what's on my plate of the food, to mix it.
Oh.
I will mix it in a minute and put it in a bowl.
Yes, my
Yeah.
husband's that way. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Even when I make regular dinners, he does this whole mixing thing, and I'm going, no, that way. But we just have sort of these little quirky things that we do, and I love that you have children that you understand our little quirks. I just want to say so much gratitude and thank you for being here. You're an amazing
Oh,
man.
oh,
We are
thank
going
you.
to stay connected.
Yes.
You're now a BFF of the podcast,
All right. Yes,
and
yes, 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 yes.
I
Great.
cannot wait to connect with you. We're gonna meet up after this, and have some chats.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn, all that good stuff. I love you to pieces, and I wish you so much success and love and all that you're doing. And thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart and for the listeners for sharing your vulnerability story that we have to earn, and I think we earned it. Um,
Oh,
and
yes.
and
Yes.
bringing this light to the world to pay it forward and to give hope to others that you never give up. It's never too late, and people like yourself and me are there for others to really just build you and boost you and help you with that inside job, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And this has been great. I really have enjoyed myself. I really, really appreciate you, and I appreciate your audience. And, I'm just really thankful to be here today. And please, I would love to stay in touch and to be connected. And and to see you again, perhaps. So,
Oh, you will. You will. I guarantee you. I'll be stalking you. No, I'm just kidding. Um, hang in with me 1 second. All right,
sure.
listeners. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I love you all for all of your comments, your positive feedback. We are all 5 stars on Apple, and I could not be more proud of that. We are growing this community, and this community is all about love, acceptance, a safe space, and having compassion, because that's what we're here for in this life. I believe is to help one another. This life is nothing without relationships, and this is a relationship we have together. So a little housekeeping on my side. My books are available, of course, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, and Outskirts Press. So my dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach. And I'm actually going to show you guys my new book, because I haven't done this yet, and we are on video. Let's see if we can. So I've recently published a children's book, because
Oh,
Darius and I were talking, I had said to him, we work with all those things in adults that have to be undone from childhood. So I was inspired. I have a brand new granddaughter named Carter that was born in July. And
oh, great.
my daughter has a dog named Bexley. It's a border collie who's just like the love of our lives. And so I wrote a book about mindfulness for children ages 0 to 6, because I figure, hey, most influential years, let's get them started right. This is about telling children emotions are good, self-care is good. And like my other 2 books for adults, watch your dogs. They live in the moment. They love themselves. They do what they want when they want to. They live in joy. They live to please. Everything, all of it. Dogs are my life, and they're amazing. So here is my children's book.
Oh, that's so great.
My dog
Oh,
Bexley is just like me,
oh,
and
wow,
this is
Maureen,
going to
that's awesome.
help our little ones. So for Christmas coming up, reach out to me, and I will personalize it for your little guys. And you can also replace your dog's name, instead of Bexley, to make it even more engaging for those little guys. So yes, go find it. It is on Amazon and everywhere else. Last but not least, let's see, life coaching, lifecoachmaureen.com. I do the same as Darius, as far as we believe in the confidence coaching and really boosting you and helping you undo those things so you're not doing the imposter syndrome. And we really do believe you can have the life that you envision, and you can take the steps, and I'm here to help you. So after that, let's talk about the boutique. MyDogIsEverything.net is a boutique where I make holistic, healthy treats for your dogs. No preservatives, no additives, no xylitol, as well as apparel and safety products. So go shopping for Christmas. It's all online. Gets it shipped out to you. You don't even have to leave the house, because you're going to be so full from your Thanksgiving dinner. So thank you all for being here. I love you all. Please leave your comments. If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out as well. I would be happy to hear your story, and we'll share it with the world. Leave comments for Darius. Let me know if you want to get a hold of him. I'll have all the show notes. And on that note, I thank you all. Have a blessed and wonderful Thanksgiving with your families. Please be safe, and I will see you next week. Mwah.